Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Steel Sanctuary podcast. I'm your host, Dave Rivero from SteelersSanctuary.com, and today we've got Nick Farabaugh back with us from Steelers Now. Nick, how you doing?
How you doing, man? Appreciate for having me on, as usual.
Appreciate you being here, brother. I looked it up. The last time we had you on was February 22nd, so quite a bit's happened since then. I wanted to get your take on the Steelers free agency, how you think they did, what you liked, what you didn't like about the free agency so far. Give us a quick synopsis on what you think about it.
Well, I think some of their ads were solid. Patrick Queen, I think, is a really quality ad. I think the Deshaun Elliott signing, the value they got there, that's a good football player they got with
Agreed.
Deshaun Elliott.
Agreed.
I like the process behind the quarterback overhaul. I think they clearly upgraded at that position, and they have an upside swing in Justin Fields. It's
Mhm.
good process. It's good GMing. Um, I like that. There were a few things I didn't like. I feel like they created holes for themselves. Trading
Absolutely.
Deontay Johnson for Dante Jackson um, is probably the most head scratching move to me of the offseason. I mean, I get it. They kind of had to trade Deontay Johnson just because the dynamics, the locker room dynamics had to happen. But dude, I think I'd rather just have the draft cap.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
Same.
serious. Like,
Yeah.
and then sign a corner or something. Um,
Do you think
why?
it's one of those cases where that's one of Mike Tomlin's guys that he really really likes and like had to have? It kind of smells of that, doesn't it? Like
I think it does, right? It's not that Dante Jackson's like a bad player. He's a fine corner two, corner three. He'll start and he'll give you. He's an upgrade. I'll say that he's better than Patrick Peterson and
better
Levi
than Patrick
Wallace.
Peterson. Yes. Yeah.
So they got better. But um, they create a gaping hole wide receiver. I think it's the right decision to move on from Mason Cole, but you don't cut the guy unless you know you're going to necessarily replace him. Um, like Mason Cole by no means was a good football player last year, but like, dude, at least he is a capable player. Like right now, they do not have one on the roster. I don't care what they say about Nate Herbig. He's played 49 career snaps at center.
Yep.
You can't tell me he's a center. He's a guard. So they have. I think what they have done is they are better in some spots. They're better quarterback. They're better at safety. They're better corner. They will be better corner. I don't think they're better corner yet, but they're going to add probably at least one guy through the draft and maybe re-sign another guy. So they will be better corner. They're better at inside linebacker. But
They have
what
no
why
center.
did they I think the issue is they have center and wide receiver that aren't just needs, they're musts in the draft.
Yes.
So it's not the fact that they just have to pick them. They have to hit on them. Like they have to hit
Hmm.
on both. Then they also have a big need at tackle and another essentially starter need at slot corner. They don't have a
Hmm.
slot corner. So, and then you have once at D line, inside backer, outside corner. So, I mean, team has needs, man. And I just feel like they have put themselves in a bit of a bind to where they need to hit on these picks. So, it's a little interesting for a team that signed a 35-year-old quarterback on a 1-year deal
Yep.
that is talking about urgency to win a playoff game. I'm going to be real. Some of this offseason has felt more like a team that's reshaping and using this as a transitional year than one that plans to win a playoff game.
I couldn't agree more. I said at the beginning of this process, I just fully expect them to sign a veteran center and take care of that position and then be able to go into the draft and just go BPA and have at it. You know, they'd have a minor need at corner or a minor need here and there, but now they're at the point where um, they have to take a center in the first two rounds, right? I mean, you can't. I don't know if you can wait till the third round. I guess you could. It depends on how much, like you said, how much do they believe in Nate Herbig?
Well,
And
I don't see any scenario. I'm going to be real with you. I just at this point I'm not expecting center to be picked at 20. They've shown no
no,
interest.
I don't either, to be honest with you.
Um, they've shown they haven't hosted any of the
No,
guys for visits. I
no,
mean,
none.
Zach Frazier was reported, but still has not come. So we'll see if that happens. And I mean, we're talking about, I think we have 23 of 24 of the 30. Like,
23 to 30 right now. Yeah.
unless Powers Johnson, Barton, and Frazier are all in those. Actually, Frazier's a local, so it
Yeah.
doesn't count. But right now, they have only hosted one interior lineman, and it was a guard. I mean,
And a late round guard, right? Out of
yeah.
Oregon.
I
Yeah. It's
mean,
not even a,
I don't
yeah.
know necessarily what the plan is at center right now. I don't think it's the first round. I've talked about it before. I very much believe 20th overall is BPA at premium position, tackle, receiver, corner. I think that's what they're going to do. And then second round, I think there's probably when you're going to start to see center in play. Maybe if they trade back, that's where center comes into play. They trade back 8 spots, take Jackson Powers Johnson or something like that. But I guess we'll see where it goes. I still think Frazier has a decent shot at being there at 51. So I don't think that they're going to have a hard time. I'm also higher on Cedric Van Pran than I think a lot of people are. They think, he's a mid third round pick. I think he's a late second talent wise. So I like Cedric Van Pran too, but it's a deep center draft. It's just day one starting centers are just
That's the
not
problem.
deep, right? Like if this was a draft where they had signed someone and had someone on the roster, I could have told you Dominic Puny, Tanner Bortolini,
Yeah.
um, Hunter Norzad, Bo Limmer. Like there's a lot of guys that are interesting at center in this class. It's just they
Yep.
need someone to start day one.
Do you see Cedric Van Pran as a day one starter? Do you like him that much?
I do.
Yeah.
I think he could do it.
Because,
I think he might be a little rawer than the other three.
yeah.
But I think he'll be fine. I think he's very athletic. I think he's a great scheme fit first, and
Yeah.
he's a plus on the ground game. I think he might have a little bit of a transition, kind of dealing with bigger bodies in pass pro, but I think he can do it.
Yeah. That's going to be key, right? Because if you're the Steelers and you do go BPA round one, can you really afford to stay at 50 or 51 or wherever they are and not try to trade up if you think Zach Frazier is the only other starting caliber center? I mean, that's a risky move. If they think Van Pran can also be that guy, then maybe stay and put it in the second round is not such a bad idea, but it seems risky for a
It is.
team like you said, no center on the roster right now.
I mean, listen, and if they run a, I just don't believe in Nate Herbig as a starting center in the Arthur Smith scheme. Nate Herbig is a really solid player in a phone booth. I just don't love asking him to go out in space and reach block linebackers. Um, and like the free agent market isn't very hot right now. I mean,
It's
look at
done,
who's
right?
out there. It's what Mason Cole,
Mason Cole is the number one guy pretty much right now. Brian
Brian
Allen from the,
Allen.
yeah. Yep.
Um, Brian Allen's interesting from the McVay scheme. Maybe that could be a fit. I mean, Connor Williams is still out there, but who knows when he's going to be healthy.
Yeah.
So, um,
We read the
I,
statement from
I
his agent and it did not
no,
sound promising.
did
It did
not.
not sound promising.
Seems like he's going to be out for a while still.
Yeah.
And the thing is about that whole thing specifically with, you know, center is I feel like in the post free agency, after the draft, when the Steelers are obviously going to dip into free agency probably 2 or 3 more times to fill out the roster. Okay, receivers a little weaker. Well, there's names out there at least that you can sign. Boyd, Chark, OBJ, Michael Thomas, Michael Gallup. Like, there's names, right, where
Mhm.
you can bring him in. Tackle. If you don't love the tackle situation and you want to bring in a vet tackle, Mekhi Becton and Donovan Smith are there.
Yep.
Corner, there's tons of slot corners out there.
Yep.
Center, I mean, is the one position where there's really not. So that feels like a need. And, I think a trade up from 51 to get Frazier might be interesting. But listen, if Mel Kiper and it's right about these centers falling, I mean,
Yeah.
you
I
trade
did
up,
hear that too.
10 spots to go get Jackson Powers Johnson if he starts to creep into the 40s. I think you have
Well,
to think
yeah,
about
that
it,
absolutely. If you could
right?
get Jackson Powers Johnson and a tackle at 20, that's something.
I think you have to think about it. So I guess we'll kind of see what ends up happening there. But definitely think that center is the most perilous position they're in right now.
Mhm.
Especially because it seems like they do not want to address that position in 20. And I don't blame them. I understand why, but they got to get out of here with a starting center, or at least a center that can play, right?
Yeah. I mean, do you give any thought to James Daniels maybe kicking over there? He's got 500 snaps. It was a long time ago, but
Have not seen him take a snap at center his entire Pittsburgh career.
no,
This
yeah, I'm sure he
But this
hasn't.
is why I say Herbig is in the center because last year during practice, Mason Cole would run with both units. Herbig didn't snap. So you're telling me all of a sudden now this guy's going to be a center? Like, really? Um, he's capable of it, but no chance am I believing you're running into week one with him as your center. So
I can't.
they got to draft someone pretty clearly. I don't think they were as hot on the free agency market as a lot of analysts were, which is what you think it is. I just don't think they loved it as much. And so they're going to play it through the draft. We'll kind of see how it works out.
And then you run into the other scenario where you're starting potentially a rookie center, a rookie right tackle, and a second year left tackle who hasn't played left tackle in the NFL. If all goes well, if you draft say Mims in the first round and Frazier in the second, you've got a very very inexperienced offensive line. I'm granted two veteran guards, but that's not optimal either, right? And I guess
No,
you could leave more in for a little while to kind of compensate for that.
I don't know. If you draft the first round right tackle,
Yeah,
you're doing that with the thought of Broderick switching to left. So you would want Broderick to play throughout camp at left. So I don't really know what they do there. Um, I mean, yes, two starting rookies. I mean, it depends, right? The Chiefs completely revamped their offensive line with two starting rookies back in 22 when Creed and Trey Smith both started there.
yep, yep.
It can be done. So, I mean, listen, look at the Steelers secondary last year. I mean, that wasn't everybody's party either, hinged on a second round rookie playing his hair off, and well, he
Yeah.
did do that. So, um, it's going to be contingent on it. But I think, if we're talking about best case scenarios, an offensive line of Jones, Sayamalo, Jackson Powers Johnson, Daniels, and Mims is I think
Sounds pretty good.
that's a pretty good
Just
offensive line. I
yeah,
like that.
despite the inexperience, it does sound pretty good.
The
Yeah,
inexperience is what it is, right?
yeah.
I think
I
Russ.
mean,
I think you could put five All Pros with Russ, and he'd still probably rack up 40 sacks.
well, that's the other thing that you think about with all this is between Russ and Fields. What were they, 1 and 2, and holding the ball the longest in the league? It just it confuses me their whole plan for this offseason. I expected them to really bolster this line at least with a veteran center, and then move the pieces around that. They've seemed to, I don't know, they not ignore the offensive line, but pretty close to it. They went after, as far as I know, just one center, right? The Buffalo Bills,
Yeah, Mitch
uh,
Morse.
Mitch Morrison. That was it. We didn't hear anything. There was a couple of decent centers in free agency. We didn't hear any connection to that. Like you brought up earlier, they haven't sniffed an offensive lineman in this. I mean, I'm sorry, a center in this draft process really since the Senior Bowl. Anyway, it's a strange plan we're seeing unfold here.
Again, it's like sending mixed signals because, like, signing Russ, you're like, okay, you want to win this year, but it sure does seem like the Steelers are using 2024 as a transitional year to reset the table, and 2025 kind of see where things are because they have a ton of cap space next year and
We have a ton of free agents too.
a ton of free agents. And so it's really going to be, it's going to be the offseason where Omar Khan and Andy Weidel really can do a lot. And that's both at the quarterback position and just reshaping the roster in their vision truly. So I don't know. I think, post free agency draft is very the post draft free agency process is very important for this team, and I anticipate them making one splashy move. They made a few last year where Marcus Golden and Quan both came in after the draft. Both those guys ended up playing a good bit. And so I expect that to happen again this year, where, someone comes in post draft, plays a lot. We'll see where it's at because I think, we're talking about them having needs. They have a lot of wants too. You'd like to get another defensive lineman.
Yep.
You'd like to get another inside linebacker. You'd like, listen, if they were truly full of their needs and had everybody picked out, we would probably be talking about guard because James
Yeah.
Daniels is a free agent next
Free
year.
agent. And Siamalo's 31-ish, 32,
Yep.
somewhere in that area. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely
So,
right.
so like, if this team had no holes, guard would be in play. So I don't know. I certainly think that it's going to be very interesting to see what they do in this draft. Trading back, I think, is a very attractive option for them too. Get another day two pick, have a lot of kind of ability to do what they want. But I think they're kind of right in the fact that it seems like they're going to wait for center to day two because, right, like what does a tackle at 52 at 51 do for them?
Nothing.
Like, is
You're
that
right.
tackle starting over Dan Moore? Probably not. And
Probably
they need a
not.
receiver to play right now. So,
That's why I don't even like the trade down really, because 20 seems to be like almost like a cutoff in this draft. You lose the top tier of wide receivers. I know wide receivers deep, but and then a tackle, the same thing. All the top tackles pretty much gone by 2025. So if they trade too far back in the first round, I fear that they're going to miss out on, Mims or someone like that, Latham or those guys, and they'll be, great. We'll get JPJ in the first round back at 28, 29, and then you're not filling any more holes after that.
I mean, at that point, the reason you need another day two pick to me. I just they have too many holes. I
They
don't
do. They do.
and like receiver at 51 with who they've scouted sure seems likely. Look who they've scouted: Pearsall, Leggett,
Mm-hmm.
Corley. Like those guys ain't making it to 84.
No,
So
no.
sure does seem like a round two Roman Wilson, Lad McConkey, like these guys that they have been interested in, guys that they met formally with at the combine, like Jalen Polk and Troy Franklin. They went to AD Mitchell's. Zach Azani went to AD Mitchell and Xavier Worthy's pro day. Andy
Yep.
White was at Brian Thomas Jr.'s pro day. Like, dude, sure is signaling like they want a round two receiver to me, like, or a round one receiver. I think trading back is interesting just because there is no guarantee that one of those tackles is there. There's no guarantee that you have Brian Thomas Jr. there. In fact, I don't think he's making it to 20.
You don't
Um,
think so?
I think they will have one tackle there, but I don't know if they're going to like all the tackles. Are we, if Fatano's there, would you take Fatano or trade back? I think
It's
that's
tough.
interesting.
It's a tough one.
So we'll
Some
kind of
people
see.
rave about Fatano. Some I've seen
Listen, they
people
might they
rave.
might rate that tackle not too far below, Guyton and Sumatea and Morgan, who are going
Mm-hmm.
to be in that late first, early second crowd. But really, I think if you trade back, that is like center corner range or
Yeah.
AD Mitchell range. It's one of those three to me. AD Mitchell at like 27, 28 makes sense. You could maybe get Kool-Aid McKinstry or Cooper DeJean there.
Yep.
And then if you want to go tackle, you probably are looking at, Guyton or somebody there. But I still think, it depends on what the board is at 20, man. It really does. And I think the team, is gonna really love AD Mitchell. That he's such a
I,
Steelers receiver.
I like him a lot.
He's a
I
good
would
player.
not be I would be very happy if AD Mitchell ended up Pittsburgh Steeler next year.
He's a good player, man. But he is very George Pickens coded too, where
Yeah.
he, doesn't try some of the times. He's a fun player though, and his flexibility for his size is special. And so he's a really talented player that honestly, you have GP and ADE on the other side, man. That's a really good receiving duo.
Yeah.
And I still think, you know, the depth at receiver is brutal. I
You can
mean,
see. I was just gonna say. You could say it. It's bad.
like
It's
Van Jefferson and Calvin Austin. Oh, Quez Watkins is there too.
it's not good.
I still Calvin Austin's better than Quez Watkins. I don't know why they signed Quez Watkins. Like you watch Quez Watkins' tape, and Calvin Austin is a better player. It's just, and he can return punts. He's a better player. Um, so I don't. That signing was interesting. Felt like they missed out on Mike Williams, and Tyler Boyd was like too expensive, and they just passed on that tier. So, which is why I think they're going to circle back to receiver probably in the post draft free agency and sign someone, whoever that may be. But AD Mitchell is like a stud, dude. Would be a phenomenal first round pick for them at receiver. But
Is
I
that your
think
favorite of the second tier wide receivers? Like like the guys you brought up, Pearsall, McCorley, that group, AD Mitchell, even Brian Thomas. Is he?
I like Mitchell more than I like Thomas, which
You do
is I like Franklin more than I like Thomas, which is interesting. And I like
really?
Brian Thomas, but Troy Franklin is like awesome. I don't know why he's not talked about in the first round. He's an awesome player. Um, Steelers have shown no interest in him, so just
Yeah,
keep
not
him
much interest
later.
at all.
And he's like
um,
not really a good fit for what they want to do. He's a string bean, tall receiver that, you know, they probably need a guy that's a little bigger and will probably kick some butt. So I mean, listen, man, that second tier receivers is good. There's some guys that, I don't love as much. Like I don't love Corley as much as a lot of people do. I get why they love him, but like a lot of his production came on screens.
I was gonna say, isn't his average
Yeah. It's like
air things like
51% of his production came off screens, and that's a
yeah, it's like
lot.
5 yards average air.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Leggett has his own concerns. Little tight in and out of breaks, broke out really late, but the fifth year tape is real good.
Yeah,
So
I kind of like Leggett. I wouldn't be mad with
also
him at the second round.
he's also special teams able.
Hmm.
So that's something to consider too. Um, so he's an interesting player. Pearsall's very polished. I mean, you just put
Yeah,
him in great route runner. You plop him in there. He's really solid. Lad McConkey's interesting. He's kind of got his degree in route running. Have concerns about him in press because he does get bullied a little bit up front. Kool-Aid gave
yeah,
him some fits.
yeah.
Um, but he's an interesting player. Brian Thomas also, dude. Kool-Aid really gave a lot of these top receivers some problems. Kool-Aid McKinstry is so underrated. I don't know
You hear
why.
that? You hear that a lot. You don't hear him in the top tier of corners. But then every time I listen to somebody like, boy, he gave this receiver a tough time. Boy, he gave it. These are good receivers too, not just
If they traded back from 20 to like 27 and took Kool-Aid McKinstry, it'd be a great pick. Kool-Aid and Joey Porter Jr. could both press up on guys and really give them trouble. Um,
it should be great.
so he's a good player too. But these second tier receivers, it's good. They all have their issues where you're kind of like, that's a bit of a problem. But Pearsall's a plug and play, real easy guy. I think Corley's really raw. He's an interesting player, but I'm not sure what they want. I think Mitchell's a plug and play. Worthy is not to me like the type of receiver they would look at. He's also not a John Ross type where he actually he has route nuance.
Yeah.
He was a guy that from the very beginning in college was the alpha of that offense. So, and you watch Quinn Ewers' tape and woof. I mean, watch AD Mitchell and Xavier Worthy, and they had a lot of missed stuff on the field. So I like the second tier receivers. It's not bad. Keon Coleman is kind of the other guy that we haven't talked about that is like the most polarizing player of
Yeah,
this
he ran
entire
slow,
class.
right?
Ran a 4.61, but his time speed is like good. Like GPS speed is
Yeah,
really
I've heard that.
good.
Yep. Yep.
Um, dude, big body
Hmm.
contested catch dudes usually scare me. I kind of like him though. I think he had reminds me a lot of T. Higgins. So I'm on board with him personally. if he ends up in Cleveland, there's going to be things that are going to be big problems. I'm telling you. But and I could see that happening. But this second tier receivers, man, like it's a nice group. I even like guys beyond that. Roman Wilson's a nice player. It's not a bad second group. This is a really deep group.
Yep.
Jalen Polk is a nice player. Jalen McMillan's a nice player. I
Yep.
mean, it's a
Two
deep
Washington
group.
kids. Yep.
And a lot of these guys are going to play. And then you have wild cards like, Jermaine Burton, who is just
I like Jermaine Burton.
his
His
coach.
name doesn't. I guess he's had off the field issues, right? That's kind of soured some people on him.
Yeah, he's had some off the field stuff, but dude, the
Yeah, I like Jermaine Burton a lot.
tape is fun. So a lot of the tape on these guys is real good, man, and it's a really good class. They should be able to walk out of this with the receiver who can. I, I, I tend to go against Corley, who's a little raw and more
Mhm.
for like a Pearsall type on day two. But I mean, if they grab AD Mitchell, in round one, I think things from there just kind of
Yeah, you
lock
can't
in
be mad at
place.
that. How about this tackle class? I mean, obviously, after the first few big guys are going to go top 10. They've showed interest in a lot of them, even Fuaga, who a lot of people think are going to go top 15 ish. They've had Fitano in now, Mims, of course. Who would be your favorite out of that second tier group that will be available to Steelers at 20? Is it Mims?
Yeah, it is, man. I
Yeah,
love
it has to
Myers.
be, right?
Really only played 6 real games, which is the real tough part. But those 6 games are elite
Yeah.
in pass pro. His polish for those 6 games is absolutely fantastic. I mean, if this guy had a full year of tape on him, we're talking about a top 10 pick.
Yeah, it'd be top 10, right? Easy.
I really think that. And people are
Agreed.
like, the risk is too big at 20. I'm like, the discount for this guy at 20 is
Yeah.
incredible. The
Yep.
talent of this guy, we it would not surprise me one bit if in 5 years we're talking about Amarius Mims as the best tackle out of this class. That's the type of player we're talking about. He is a star in the making, in my opinion. As long as he can stay healthy, and
Mhm.
the injuries that he suffered weren't necessarily like, oh, I don't know, he did this that's just like incessantly happening. Like, dude, he got rolled up on. How does that make you injury prone? The fact that you get rolled up on by a seven, 2 guys that combined for 700 pounds. Nope. Like, of course
Yeah,
your ankle
nobody's.
is going
Yeah,
to be injured. Like,
yeah,
I,
nobody's.
I don't I don't think that makes him injury prone. I'm interested to see the numbers he puts up tomorrow at his pro day. But dude, he is a star. So yeah, probably my favorite. But you talk about the second group of tackles, like Fuaga and Fatanu are just Latham too, for that matter, are just
Mhm.
plug and play. Boom. Like
Yep.
Fatanu particularly is like super athletic and perfect for Arthur Smith's scheme. I have like a theory he could play center, but I don't want
Oof,
to
that would be
preach that
something, right?
because I think he could be like an awesome center, but I also think he can be a really good tackle. So dude, I like everyone from that group. There's not really a guy I'm down on. Latham, I'm probably a little bit lower on. I think he's a little bit heavy in the feet. But he dropped 20 pounds, so he's playing at 345 now. I'm interested to see kind of what his foot speed's going to be with that. But this tackle class is really absurd at the top. So
Really
if
good.
Mims is there at 20, like to me, that's the pick.
I become fixated on him. I think he's the guy I want the Steelers to take the most. And I'm a wide receiver guy. I don't think you can ever have enough weapons, but you can't pass Mims if he's there at 20. You just can't.
He's a star. I mean,
Yeah,
I
I,
really
I couldn't
believe
agree with you more.
I really
Um,
believe that.
what else? They've talked to a lot of defensive tackles. That's more second, third round, but they seem to be really focused on that, which kind of surprises me a little bit because I guess it's not as glaring a need as the other positions. Um, do you see a defensive tackle second, third round even?
Yeah, I mean it could be. Right. Fiske is one of their visits. They
Mm-hmm.
went to a Rose Pro Day. Um,
Mason Smith's the one you hear all the time because he's fits that mold.
he is interesting. Super talented player. Just where's it going to fit in? Chris Jenkins is another guy I really like from Michigan. I
Yep.
mean, really underrated. I don't know why he's not talked about more. In Steelers targets at least. I
Especially being a
wish they
Michigan
had
guy.
the luxury. I'll tell you this. I wish they had the luxury to take a D tackle round.
I've thought about that a lot.
Johnny
You like
Newton and
Newton?
Byron Murphy
I was gonna
are
say Newton. You
so
like
good.
Newton? Yep.
I don't know why people. Johnny Newton, I'll say it right now, in my opinion, Johnny Newton's the best defensive player in this class. I don't get he
Wow.
dominates every time he's on tape. And we found out that was at the fracture of his foot, by the way.
Yeah.
He's just a star in the making.
I was watching him today. It's funny. It's funny. I was just watching a little bit of him this afternoon. Pretty impressive stuff.
He's a really good player. Um, they just don't have the flexibility, I think.
I can't. Yeah. This is the problem
Um,
with not signing a center. Is like signing a center would have opened up such. They could have gone in a million different directions.
yeah, I agree. But man, he's a star. But day two, man, I don't know. People have talked about this D tackle class is pretty underwhelming, and I just keep watching it, and I'm like, where? A lot of good
Yeah.
players, I think, that can at least be good rotational players. I like Michael Hall. He's undersized but really explosive. Um, I like Mason Smith and what he brings to the table. A lot of people don't like Mason Smith, but you watch his last four games on tape, dominant tape, man. I mean, he was back to where we're talking about a guy that's 5-star, built like,
Yep.
Stephon Tuitt, has a great get off. The motor is there. I mean, he is a really nice player and could be, a real steal, especially if he's at 98, which he might be. And you even go down the board, Christian Boyd is a really nice player, dominated the Shrine Bowl. I thought he was really good. Gabe Hall from
Baylor,
Baylor
right?
had a great
Yep.
Senior Bowl, and I've really liked his tape. So I like a lot of these guys. Dwayne Carter, I think you throw in there, and you even throw, some of those kind of mid kind of tweeners like Darius Robinson and Brandon Dorlus, that can fit in there too. And it's hard, I think, to kind of overlook the strength of this D line class. And so they should rightfully, in my opinion, be drafting one. They need one. Because next year, you're talking about the free agents, and Cam Hayward is a free agent or
Yeah.
might retire. Larry Ogunjobi has to play much better this year to get to the third year of his deal.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
really, the only future guy is going to be here is Keanu Benton. And
Hmm.
so
It's a
they
good
need
starting point, but they need more.
some more. And so, I'm with them getting there, drafting someone there. I think it's a smart strategy. And listen, they do have 5 picks in the top 120. So
Yep.
if you're listing the top five needs on this team, it's a top five team.
Yeah, absolutely. Darius Robinson's interesting, right? Because they met with him at the Senior Bowl, if I'm not mistaken, right? And they're having him in for a visit, so they've shown interest. But I even heard today, I think it was Mel Kiper's podcast, that he thinks he's going in the first round. So that would kind of take him out of the Steelers' ballpark, unless they go
Yeah, I mean, trade
surprise
back
everybody.
scenario maybe.
Maybe, possibly.
So I don't know. He's a tweener, but like very odd fit for them
It
because
is it is odd, right?
he's like
It's not
6'5",
Leal all over
285.
again.
But when he was 6'5", 300, he was undraftable. I mean, the tape sucked. I'm just gonna
Yeah,
be real. Like the interiors tape sucked. So um, maybe they want him to be a chess piece. Like, cannot play outside backer to me. But in sub packages could be the base end. I can see it, but I don't know where he fits it in base. Like,
it seems like a luxury right now, and not
yes,
something that they can afford to do, right?
I would agree. But I mean, if you're bringing him in, clearly you're interested in him. Like, it's like the Penix visit that was reported, right? Like,
Yeah,
why are they bringing in Michael Penix for a visit? Well, I don't know, but they clearly are interested in the guy. They're not just going to waste one of their 30 visits just to bring the guy in. So
if he's there at 51, do they take a swing at that? Would that again? It's one of those luxury things. You'd love to do it. I would love for them to take a shot at Penix
yeah, I
and see
mean,
what happens. But
it's
man,
possible. I mean, I don't think they'll do it because they want to win a playoff game so bad. But it would. I mean, 51 is good value. Good
yeah,
player.
absolutely.
So I don't think so. But Robinson's in that same bucket where it's like kind of a luxury fit. But D line, this interior D line class is a good D line class, so I think they should definitely kind of pop in there. I think my favorite fit for them is probably Chris Jenkins. I just love that guy's tape. Real hot motor. Obviously has the NFL bloodlines that they love.
Yep.
He's a really nice player, freak physical talent, plays with great leverage. Little light, he's about 6'2", 300, but I think could play at three tech, could play at the five. Super explosive, plays with his hair on fire. Um, Not super consistent with his pass rush plan, but creates havoc anyways because he's just so explosive.
Yep.
I mean, the tape reminds you a lot of Keanu Vet from last year, so I'm on board with him. They were at his pro day. Terrell Austin was there to see him too.
Yep.
I think he would be a wonderful pick. If they pick up a third, a third pick on day two, and it's like an
You
early
trade back.
third, that's who
Yep.
I would take.
Okay. The last one that they've really showed interest in this pre-draft process is cornerback. They've done a lot of work on cornerback. Seems like they've done a lot of work on slot cornerback types too in the draft. Like Andrew Phillips, I guess, kind of falls in that category. Maybe Max Melton's kind of both outside and slot. I like Max Melton a lot. I watched him the other day. He seems to be a pretty good. He'd be a very good cornerback for them. Who's your favorite out of that second tier for
I'm a
corners?
Melton fan.
You
I
are.
think Max Melton. Um,
He's a good player.
yeah, he's a good player and super athletic. I think, which
Yeah.
is something that is severely lacking in the day two corners this year. The day two corners this year are slow.
Yeah.
And it's a deep slot group though because of that. Kamari Lassiter and Ennis Rakestra are probably slot guys. Um, but Melton's a really nice player. Has the NFL bloodline, so of course, they're going to be
Yep.
interested in him. He is a really explosive player down the field. He has great recovery speed, fluid hips, has solid length for his size, not too wiry. Definitely is a little thinner, but like he's 5'11", 190 and plays bigger than that, which I like. Can play inside and outside. I love the fact that he can play inside and outside. That's kind of my ideal, guy that they could
Yep.
get. So I like Max Melton. Not a big fan of Andrew Phillips. I get the schematic fit for him, but the
Yeah.
tape dude is tough. It's not great tape. You know, Fluid, explosive. Again, another great athlete. So I get it. Super aggressive in run defense. Like can definitely come up and blitz the quarterback.
You can see why
But
the
to
Steelers like
me,
him. Athletic and run defense. That's a harkens back to the Colbert type thing more
he
than
is a uh he is a great rundown nickel. It's just they don't have a pass down nickel right now. So I don't know. Mike Sanders still is an awesome
another
player.
one.
Like
A
that
little on the
guy.
small side, but
Super athletic again. He tested like an
yep.
absolute freak.
Hmm.
Another guy that probably is not going to end up playing any outside. Um, just gonna play in the slot. But Tate reminded me a ton of Mike Hill. That's who I came
Yep.
up. So their interest in him is like the least surprising thing ever.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it really is. The first round corners, I think, them showing interest in all of those guys,
Yeah, we
Arnold,
can't rule it out, right?
Wiggin, and McKinstry is fascinating.
Yeah.
Did not expect that completely going in. Arnold and Wiggins can, I think Arnold and Mitchell can both play inside or outside. I think Wiggins can play inside on passing downs, but not run downs because he's super light. Does not tackle well either.
No, he's
Basically
light
is
too.
Dante Jackson, but better. Um, because the tape is fantastic. Like the coverage tape is awesome, but he's gonna have a tough time tackling. He's just so light.
What did
It's
he
not
weigh in at?
Mike Williams, man.
185, right? At the combine. And that might have
Yeah,
been
he's lighter than that.
179. 179, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he played at like 170. So I mean, he's a light player, and I mean, the tape is fantastic. I'm a little more scared of them after Emmanuel Forbes busted. It seems
Well, that's
like
the thing, right? Yeah. Everyone's
I
pointing
like
to
Emmanuel
Forbes.
Forbes. So a little more worried, but the tape is real good, and so I like Wiggins. Arnold is like a dream pick. Just
Yeah, I don't know if
perfect.
he gets to 20.
If he gets there, if it's Mims versus Arnold at 20,
Ooh,
mm, tough
that's a
pick.
choice. That's a tough one.
I mean, I'd probably take Mims just because the
Yeah,
O line is such a need. But dude, Arnold is an awesome player. Kool-Aid, as I have told you, I think is super underrated. And I love Kool-Aid. I also like Cooper DeJean a lot too.
I was gonna bring him up. He worked
He's a
out today,
nice
right?
player. I
I think
don't
tomorrow.
know if I love him at outside, but this super athletic slot safety,
Slot safety type. Yep.
just absolute, cyborg kind of chess piece. I like
Yeah.
him. In a trade back scenario, I'd probably think a lot about Cooper DeJean. That's someone who I would think about a lot. It's a really good slot corner group. I think another guy that I like that's underrated personally is Renardo Green out of Florida State. This cat is
Good corner. Good
oh,
corner. Yep.
he's a guy that's played outside, inside, safety. He's athletic, great instincts. Took Malik Neighbors of all people and probably gave him his hardest game of the year. I mean, his tape is awesome. He is a day one, and I'm telling you right now, they could probably get him at 98.
Yeah,
And
I think so.
he is a day one starter, impact starter that is going to maybe make the all rookie team. I mean, he is that good. This guy is going to be a steal wherever he's taken. In my opinion, maybe a top 50 player. I mean, he is a great player. I don't know why he doesn't have more hype around him. But I'll tell you this, guess who coached him? Anthony Midget, the assistant secondary coach. So
Mhm.
certainly something to think about with that. He's an awesome player. So it's a good group of nickels. And they should be able to find guys. Even later, you have guys like Jarvis Brownlee, uh, MJ Devonshire, Daquan Hardy. Elijah Jones out of Boston College is a really good player too.
I've heard people bring him up before. It seems like a good option too. Corner's deep. Corner's deep.
He's a nice player, man. He's fast, and the tape is dynamite. And I bring Boston College up. Guess Dino Tomlin played with him,
Oh yeah.
so that's
Yep.
something to think about. He's a good player. And then like you even go further down the board, like for Nichols, and you look at Jarius Monroe and uh Aaron Richardson and Miles Harden. Like, dude, there's some names here like that are probably going to be solid players. It's a
Yep.
nice group of
Very
slots.
nice group.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they sign a slot too, but like I have a hard time seeing them not be able to get a decent slot corner out of this group.
I think they definitely could. I want to circle back to Graham Barton. What are your feelings on him? Because he's the other. They say center, but he hasn't played center since freshman year. A lot of people say maybe guard. Is he at all an option at 20 for the Steelers?
I mean,
I'm some.
Arthur Smith was there at his pro day.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so definite sign of interest. He's an interesting player just because he is such a explosive player, but he's so polished. His hands and feet are super polished, and he's got the hand usage, the quickness, like everything that is great that would make an elite center. Like he has that. The arm length isn't going to be super deficient at center.
Mhm.
He's super steady in pass pro. Like most of his losses on tape are him getting beat to the outside, and it's like, okay, on the interior, bro, you don't have to worry about it. You're good.
Yep.
If you play half man, like he is awesome. His hand usage, placement, timing, it's all there. Plays with the punch. Um, Always looking for work. Truly five spot versatile. I truly believe that. I know, a lot of people have said, well, if they're going to draft a center, how about they actually draft a center? This is a guy that profiles as a five spot player. Not everybody is locked in the one spot, right? So when we talk about what they did to Kevin Dotson, Kendrick Green, and now
Yeah.
Broderick Jones, who's still playing at right tackle, not everybody's like that. There are certain guys that are just stars and can switch positions and switch sides. Barton is one of them, so I have no qualms about Barton playing at center. He's a really good player. He's probably the best interior lineman in the class to me. Um, just more polished than Jackson Powers Johnson is. Would be a really nice fit, but I think you would have to take him at 20. I do not expect him to go.
Yeah, he won't be that
I do not
51.
expect him to fall any further than that. Even if they trade back, I'm not sure he makes it. Team like Dallas,
Yeah,
Philly,
there's a couple
um,
teams that need centers that could.
Tampa.
How much credence do you give in the Tomlin Khan have to be at the pro day for the player to be a first round pick? I mean, we're going against history here. It's been over 20 years as far as I can remember that Steelers coach, general manager has been at the pro day of their first round pick. Is this the year that streak gets broken? They only went to 4 pro days, so if there ever was a year, this would be it, right?
Yeah, I mean the schedule completely ran like that right. Um, a lot of their top, like Jackson Paris Johnson and Fuaga's pro day fell on the first 2 days of free agency.
Yep.
So and then a lot of them, like LSU and others fell in the middle of the owners.
Yep.
So naturally they just couldn't be there. So yeah, I mean, but the fact that they, went to these pro days still, I think gives credence because I think I can't remember how far back it goes. I know it goes back to at least Pouncey, and it's through Broderick Jones too that they have done this. So I put a lot of credence into it, right? I think you have to because it's like a
Yeah,
show
until it's
me until
broken.
you don't do it
Yeah,
type of deal.
exactly.
But I'm not like completely beholden to it. Like the fact that Azani was in Texas and now they're bringing AD Mitchell in
Hmm.
for 30 visit. He had a combine formal. Okay, like that is a profile of a guy that could break the mold. It makes sense. And their pro day was, I believe, the same day as Alabama pro day. Of course, they're
Yeah.
going to Alabama.
Yeah, they always go to
Like
Alabama.
look at so at Texas, I mean they had a lot of potential targets that they could have seen there, like Murphy, Sweat, the three receivers, but at Bama, I mean, you look at what they get with Burton, both corners,
Latham.
all of these guys, they have a few D linemen,
Yep.
Latham, I
Yep.
mean, a lot of guys, and then not only do they get that, they get to ask who's the next crop
Yeah.
because that's another big thing that they like to do. So like the least surprising thing of all time that they went there. But a guy like AD Mitchell is the type of guy to break the mold. Position coaches, where did they go? Like Pat Meyer was at Fuaga's pro day, at
In
Fatana's pro
Washington. Yep.
day.
Yep.
They
Yep.
come in for 30 visits. They have combine formals or senior bowl, experience with them.
Hmm.
So this is kind of where that comes in. So I'm not completely beholden to it. But I'm definitely gonna weigh it still, which
Yeah.
is why, in my opinion, the favorite is still Amarius Mims. Because he's checking the
Mims
single box.
has to be the guy if he's there, and then if he's not, then you go from there. But he just checks so many boxes. Before we let you go, let's do linebackers because that's another position that seemed they've done a lot of homework on. Um, it'll be later, third round or beyond, I would think, unless somebody really drops in the lap. Anybody catch your eye? I mean, there's the Edgerrin Coopers, the Junior Colsons, Jeremiah Trotter, and
Yeah,
then guys further down like Cedric Gray. They went to,
I like Cedric
North
Gray.
Carolina. You like Cedric
Cedric
Gray?
player, man, good player. Um, I don't know if I know they want to. I know they want a linebacker. There's so many other pressing needs to me. I just, maybe if Holcomb's recovery time is completely off the mark and
That's
just
the question
not
mark,
ready.
right?
But like, I don't know. I from everything I know, I feel like Holcomb's going to be ready for week one. And if he is, Mark Robinson started to come on at the end of last year too, where he was playing better than he's ever played. Like it is like I get it. They're traumatized from what happened last year,
Yeah.
but
They had
they
so
go
many
through it
people
all.
in this building.
It's a terrible inside backer class too. I mean, it
It really
really
isn't that good, right? It really isn't.
no, it's not a good class. I like Cedric Gray. He's a good player that could really actually be a future starter for them. But other than that, I'm waiting until day three to fix that room. If I want to draft one and I like someone like the sixth round, all right, go
Yeah.
for it. But to me, not a top five pick need for them. Um, and the value to me is just not going to be there because again, I just don't love the class
Yeah.
um at all. I think there's some guys there like Cooper and Colson that are good players, but they're going to go too early, I think.
And in safety is the same thing, kind of a weaker safety class this year, even though they could probably use a guy. I wouldn't
Yeah, I mean, there's
expect.
some safeties in this class that could fit in maybe as the nickel. You know,
Yeah,
Adrian Taylor Demerson from Texas Tech is a stud. He could fit in there. But yeah, it's not a great safety group. And they really haven't shown much interest in the safety class either.
yep,
Rightfully so. I just don't think it's a great group for them. So could hop into it, but they also have a young guy that, you know, that's like one of those rare times like where they have a young guy and they can invest in like a guy like Trent Thompson who,
hmm
flashed last year when he played. So I think they have the young guy there. Same thing like out pure outside corner, right? Like they don't have a ton of depth at out pure outside corner. Like if Dante Jackson got hurt right now,
yeah. I think I tweeted they have maybe I forget what it was, like 4 snaps or 10 snaps of experience with the rest of the
yeah,
corners behind Jackson and JPJ. So,
yeah.
uh,
So it would be tough, right? But
mhm.
at the very least, I think you're very optimistic about Darius Rush and Corey Trace. So at least you have young guys with upside there. Um, so like safety is another one where it's like day three, man. The
Yeah,
value's right, go for it. But like, let's be real, dude. Those day three picks, like, this is a really shallow class. Like
I agree.
after the middle of the fourth round, it falls off a cliff.
Agreed.
So I
You
don't
really
know.
got to scour and get lucky to get a player
Do
in
do.
those later rounds.
Um, and I do believe one of those sixth round picks is going to be, or maybe even that fourth round pick, I don't know, is going to be another receiver. I think they're going to double dip a wide receiver.
I was going to say they're going to double dip at one of these positions more than likely, right? Either corner or a wide receiver.
They could double dip at center, and
Like,
I wouldn't.
well, they could do that too. Was it Brandon Thorne said there was 10 quality centers in this draft at least? So you can
Yeah,
move one to guard or have, God forbid, have 2 centers for once.
I will say, a guy like Fatanu in the first round or Fuaga is interesting too, because a lot of those guys are projected to maybe be a guard.
hmm
So okay, give them a crack in year one at tackle. You don't love it. Daniels might walk anyways. Just flip them
That's a good
inside.
point. That's a very good point. Then you have your answer at guard. Um, Hopping off the draft talk a little bit to wrap up, we're going to see some of these guys that were on this team last year back, right? Like Patrick Peterson, Levi Wallace, Mason Cole, maybe even at this point. Some of these guys are going to circle back, right? It's just
And Marcus Golden makes sense to me.
Golden, another one. Yep.
Um, I saw today for the first time out in cleats on the field, Quan Alexander's back working. So
Oh,
seems like he's on track to maybe play. If he's all good and he's looking good, bring him in for a workout. I'd be all for Quan coming back. I thought he played well last year.
yeah, he did.
Uh, So I'd be cool with Quan coming back. Like that's what I mean. Like inside linebacker, like what would you rather do? Draft a sixth round rookie or bring back Quan? I think I'd
Yeah,
rather bring back
exactly.
Quan.
Yeah.
Um, so like, that could be something. I do think they're gonna bring back one of the DBs. Um, Pat Pete as the pass down nickel makes sense.
Yeah. I have a feeling
Maybe
he's
they
coming back.
draft Phillips or Sanders still and play him in the rundown nickels. And then Pat Pete is kind of the outside depth and can be the pass down nickel. Shannon Sullivan also
That's
probably.
another one I didn't even think of. Yeah, he could be back too as a nickel
Um, Honestly,
slot.
dude, like Shannon Sullivan at the end of the year was playing
He
well.
wasn't bad. He wasn't bad. You're right. Yeah, you're
So,
absolutely right.
so I wouldn't hate it.
I'm surprised they haven't reached out to him already, to be honest
Yeah,
with
I
you.
know. I think he's one of those guys where they said, be on standby after the draft.
Yeah.
This doesn't fall the way we want it. We'll probably bring you in. Um, I also think, when we're talking about kind of down the depth chart a little bit, I thought they were going to bring back Miles Boykin just because of the gunner
Yeah, he
gave
got signed today. Yep.
signed today. Um, so I don't really know. I think, some of these guys are going to be back. I think Golden makes a lot of sense. Don't really have the capital to get an edge rusher. Fill out that room.
That's
Quan
a little
make
underrated, right? The depth at outside linebacker. We all like Herbig, but if someone were to get hurt, he's not an every down.
Jeremiah Moon.
Oh, I forgot about
Is
him
there.
too. They
Um,
do like him.
they do. He's very explosive and athletic. So good guy to bet on. Um,
Yep.
But you want to bring back Golden's vet insurance, you want to bring back Quan, you want to bring back Sullivan. Makes sense to me. That can fill out that roster. Cole coming back is the one I'm like,
None of us want to see it, but you look at that free agent
I'd
list of
rather have
centers
Brian
left.
Allen, man.
Yeah,
I would. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Cole came back after the draft, but I just think, there's
nobody
better
wants it.
options out there.
Nobody wants it.
It
Um,
really is, man.
it would be depressing if he was, because if you sign him back, he's in the mix as a starter, depending on how if you don't draft a center in the first round, he's got to be in the mix as a starter. Whoever you sign as the backup,
Yeah, I
well,
mean,
there'll
he's
be a
got to be.
competition at least.
Yeah, he's got to be. I just think pretty clearly he's not a scheme fit. He's not very good. Allen is a scheme fit, is a vet. The biggest thing with Brian Allen is that he just can't stay healthy.
I was just gonna
So,
say the injury concerns, right, with him.
but listen,
If
if
he's your
you
backup,
like run out of there like with Norzad, Limmer, Bordellini, and Brian Allen starting, where the tape for Brian Allen is actually good, and the concern is what if he gets hurt? At least
yeah.
might get good play out of that guy. So, um, I'd rather take the swing at Brian Allen. Also, a scheme fit comes from a wide zone scheme for a long time in Sean McVay.
All right, Nick, this has been great. As always, you always do a great job with us. Really appreciate you coming on. You can find Nick Farabar at Farabar FB on Twitter. You got anything cooking you want to promote real quick, or
Yeah, you know, feel free to check out our stuff at steelersnow.com. It's all good over there. Covering the draft, all that. It's coming back up. So make sure to check that out.
all right? Thanks a lot again, Nick, and thank you for guys for listening to the Steel Sanctuary podcast. We appreciate it.